It started with laughter, the cruel kind that makes a room go silent. 3 well-dressed young men sat at the corner table of a fancy restaurant, their voices loud, their arrogance sharper than the silverware they barely knew how to use. The waitress, a woman in her late 20s, hair pulled back neatly, uniform slightly faded, smiled politely through their mockery. But behind those calm eyes was a story they didn't know, and a power they never expected. That night, they thought they were making fun of a waitress. By the end, they would learn they'd just insulted the owner's wife. The restaurant La Vela was the most popular place in town, a fine dining spot that looked like something out of a movie. Every evening, the golden light spilled from its glass walls, and the sound of soft piano music floated into the street. Anna had worked there for almost 3 years. She wasn't the kind of waitress people noticed, quiet, polite, always smiling no matter what the customers said. To many, she was just another face serving food. But to her, this job meant stability, a fresh start after years of hardship. That night, 3 young men walked in, loud, dressed in designer suits, and clearly out to show off. They laughed as they entered, bumping into a waiter without apologizing. Anna greeted them with her usual calm smile. "Good evening, gentlemen. Table for 3. They smirked. "Yeah, somewhere we can actually see the food before you drop it," one said, chuckling as the others joined in. Anna's smile didn't waver. She guided them to a corner table by the window and handed them menus. "Anything to drink?" she asked softly. "Do you even know what's on the wine list?" another taunted. "Or do you just pretend to read it for tips?" Her hand tightened slightly on her notepad, but she refused to give them the reaction they wanted. "We have a lovely Merlot this evening," she said. "Would you like to try it?" "Ha! Lovely Merlot," the first one mocked. "You sound like a robot. Bet your husband left you for someone who can actually afford this place." That one stung. They didn't know her story, that her husband, Daniel, had stood by her through everything, losing her parents, struggling to pay rent, and working nights to chase their dream. She just nodded, writing down their order quietly, while their laughter echoed behind her. As the evening went on, they continued their cruel jokes, criticizing the food before tasting it, snapping fingers for attention, and whispering loud enough for others to hear. "She's probably here because she failed at everything else," one said, laughing. But through it all, Anna didn't break. Not once. The manager, seeing their behavior, wanted to intervene. But Anna stopped him. "It's fine," she said with a tired smile. "Some people just need kindness more than they know." When she returned to their table to bring dessert, one of the men accidentally spilled water on her. The glass tipped over, drenching her apron and the floor. The laughter that followed was merciless. "Oops," he said, grinning. "Guess you'll have to mop that up too." For a moment, the restaurant fell silent. Customers turned to look. Anna's eyes met his, not angry, not humiliated, but calm, almost pitying. She nodded slowly, cleaned up the mess, and walked to the back. What they didn't notice was the man standing near the kitchen door, tall, wearing a simple shirt and jeans, watching everything unfold. It was Daniel. The owner. And Anna's husband. Daniel had built La Vela from the ground up, starting as a dishwasher and working his way up to owning one of the city's most successful restaurants. But tonight, he hadn't come to play the boss. He had come to watch how his team treated people, and how his people were treated. When he saw what those young men had done to his wife, his heart burned, not with anger, but with a quiet fire. He walked over to the table, his expression unreadable. "Good evening, gentlemen," he said in a calm voice. "Is everything all right with your meal?" They didn't recognize him, he wasn't wearing a suit, and he carried himself with quiet confidence. "Food's good," one said carelessly. "But your waitress needs training. Can't handle a little joke." Daniel nodded slowly. "I see." He turned toward Anna, who was standing near the counter, trying to hold back tears. "Anna," he said gently, "could you take a break for a few minutes?" She looked surprised but nodded and disappeared into the kitchen. Then Daniel faced the men again. "You know," he said, his tone cool and steady, "we don't tolerate disrespect toward our staff here. Especially toward my wife." Their smiles vanished instantly. You're what?" one stammered. "My wife," Daniel repeated, his gaze sharp. The woman you mocked for working hard. The woman you laughed at while she was serving you. She doesn't need to afford this place. She owns it, with me. The men froze, pale as the tablecloth beneath their hands. The restaurant had gone silent again, every eye watching. Daniel continued, his voice calm but powerful. You came here to impress each other. But tonight, you showed everyone who you really are. Money buys suits, not manners. I built this restaurant to remind people that dignity and kindness matter more than ego. He paused, then added quietly, your bill is on the house. But I'll have to ask you to leave. We don't serve arrogance here. One by one, they stood up, faces burning with shame. No one clapped, no one needed to. The silence spoke louder than applause ever could. As they left, Anna came out of the kitchen, wiping her eyes. Daniel walked up to her, took her hand, and whispered, you handled it better than I ever could. She smiled softly. I just didn't want to lower myself to their level. He smiled back. That's why you're stronger than all of them combined. That night, when the restaurant closed, Anna stood by the window, watching the city lights. For the first time in a long while, she felt proud, not just of her job, but of the woman she had become. Sometimes people think kindness is weakness. But it takes real strength to stay gentle in a cruel world. Never judge someone by their uniform, you never know the story behind their smile. Because respect costs nothing. But it reveals everything. Broken heart sparkles.